Hey guys, it's LEGO Boy Z3. Today I'm going to show you my best solves at Colorado Qualifier 2018. So in today's video, I'm going to run through every round of every event that I did at my latest competition, Colorado Qualifier 2018, talk about how I did, and show you my best single solve. So this was the most events I had ever signed up for in a competition, and it also ended up being the most additional rounds that I made it to in those events. So there's a lot to go through, so let's get started. For 2x2, I didn't really care about getting a PB average, I just wanted to get a sub 6, which would be pretty good for me. But in the first round, I actually ended up getting a 5.06, which was my PB average. Now even crazier, at the end of the second round, I must have gotten two really easy scrambles because they were both sub 4. One of them was a 3.4, which is really good for me. And I actually ended up breaking my PB average again with a 4.66, which was a lot faster. Now what surprised me again is not only that I made it to 2x2 finals, but also I got another really good average of 4.76, just 0.1 off the last one. This one was a lot more consistent, so yeah, I was really surprised by that. I must just be getting faster at 2x2. Now in 3x3, similarly to 2x2, I didn't really care about getting a PB average, I just wanted to get sub 16 again, but I actually got a PB average by quite a bit. It was actually sub 15 with a 14.9. It was a really consistent average. You see my single there isn't even very good, but yeah, really good average there in the first round of 3x3. Now there are actually 4 rounds of 3x3 at this competition, and I should have easily been able to make it to the first 3, but as you can see in my second round average, I started out with an 18 and then got a couple more 18s at the end. I just really messed up my solves, didn't have good look ahead and stuff like that, so I ended up with a 17 average and I didn't make it onto the third round. Now in 4x4, I didn't think I had a chance of breaking my PB average of 107, especially having not practiced much, so I just set a goal of sub 110, and I got really close to that in the first round with a 110.15. I got a 105 single, but that was good enough to get me to the second round, where I was feeling a lot better about possibly beating that 107, and I actually did end up doing it. As you can see here, I got a 106.23 with a really crazy 54 single, even with OLL parity and a bad PLL. So yeah, that was really crazy, got a good counting 103 solve. For 5x5, I knew I wasn't going to be able to beat my PB average of 205, so I just set a random goal of 210, which I didn't actually end up getting. I got a 212, but I did get 2 good singles. There was a 156, which is almost my PB, and a 204, which was still under my PB average. So if I had gotten some more solves like that, it would have been an easy PB average, but as you can see, I got a 219, 219, 214, so kind of messed that up. 6x6 was actually really funny. I said I would only compete in it if I was able to get a sub 4 single, which was the cutoff, before the round started, so just in practice, and I actually did end up doing that. I got a 359.7, which of course is really close to sub 4, so I went ahead and tried it, and as you can see here, I actually got really close to getting sub 4. Going into the last layer, if I didn't get any really bad cases, I would be able to get it, but as you can see here, I got OLL parity starting off. I tried to do it really fast, but ended up messing up the algorithm, and then having to redo some of the edges, and then redo all of 3x3 stage, and all of that added like an extra minute onto my time, so it was a 4:47 in the end, which of course is really slow for me. Now in 3x3 blindfolded, I did almost really well in every single attempt, but as you can see here, I just ended up with 3 DNFs. So the time limit was 6 minutes, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to get under that. If I did though, it would probably be a PB, and I actually didn't have any problems with the time. I got like under 5 minutes every single time, which was great. Now in my first solve, I just totally forgot a corner target that I stuck at the end of my memo. I just didn't execute it at all, so I was off by 2 corners and 2 edges. In my second solve, I was off by 2 flipped around edges because I just didn't see it when I was memorizing. And then in my last solve, I was off by, I think, 3 edges because I just forgot a letter pair and skipped it in execution. So despite not getting a success, I'd say I still did pretty decent in this round because I got a lot faster than I had been before, and I was still pretty accurate, only messing up one little thing on each solve. Now in one-handed, my PB average was a 35.21, but I needed to get a sub 35 to be able to qualify for US Nationals, and I actually did end up doing that in the first round. I got a 34.27, and I think that was partially due to me starting to use CFOP instead of ZZ in these solves, which of course I'm faster at CFOP. But then practicing for the second round, I realized that I could probably do a lot better than a 34. So I actually ended up doing really well, got a 29.85. I went from my first sub 35 to my first sub 30 the very next round, with a 27.65 single, which is pretty good. And then to top it all off, I actually made it to the finals of one-handed, got 2 more PBs, a 29.27 average and a 26.41 single, making that a PB average and single in every single round of one-handed. Now feet, I don't think is even worth talking about. To add to my lack of practice, I actually got 3 G perms throughout the average, which of course I do 2 look during feet, which didn't really turn out well. And so yeah, my goal was sub 2, ended up getting above 3. Now for clock, I needed to get a sub 15 average to qualify for US Nationals, which should have been really easy for me because I averaged well under 15 on clock. So I ended up not doing very well in those first few solves, ended up eventually getting faster. I got a DNF because clock is just bad, and then 13 and the last solve, which was pretty good for me, but I ended up just being a little over 15 and not qualifying. In Megaminx, I figured it'd be pretty easy to get a sub 140 average using my new magnetic cube, which makes me a lot faster, and in the first round I got really close to that with a 140.74, which is pretty good. But that did get me to the final round where I was able to beat my goal. As you can see here, I got a 138 with a 133 single, which is really good for me. Now for Pyraminx, I hadn't really practiced, so I figured a sub 7 average would be pretty decent. So as you can see in the first round, I did that by quite a bit. I got a 6.03 average, which is still pretty good for me. Now in the second round, I got a 6.84 average, which still isn't that terrible for me, but all I really cared about at this point was making it to the final round so I would have a chance at podiuming. Then in the final round, I got a 6.12 average, which still isn't that bad for me despite my lack of practice. That ended up getting me 4th overall, so I just kind of missed the podium, but it's still a pretty good ranking. Now for Skewb, I actually did a lot better overall than I had expected. My times were kind of hovering right above my PB average the whole time with kind of low 6s, and as you can see in the first round I got a 6.25, which isn't bad for me, with a surprise PB single of 3.92. In the second round I got another low 6 average, which again is really good for me. As you can see here, I got a 6.12 with a 3.99 single, which was also good for me. That got me to the final round, but unfortunately in the final round I pretty much ended up getting my 3 least favorite and slowest cases in 3 of my Skewb solves, so they ended up being really slow. I got a 9-second right there and an 8-second, which was counting, so that just made my average really bad with a 7.09, and in the end I was 4th place, which is still a pretty good ranking. Now square one was another really funny one. After the previous round I raced over to get my square one to hopefully do a couple practice solves because I hadn't done one in a few months actually, and I actually had to have someone teach me a couple of the algorithms that I forgot because I just couldn't remember how to do them at all. So I pretty much learned how to solve half the puzzle 5 minutes before the round started, and then I ended up getting a PB average by a split second with a 33.48, and I made it to the final round, 12th person out of 12 people. So yeah, I was in the final round of square one, only being able to make the 40-second cutoff every few solves when I didn't get parity and got other lucky cases. So that was interesting. I got a 37 average, which is more reflective of my actual skill in square one in the second round, with a 29 single, which isn't bad. Then going into the last event, multi-blind, I didn't think I was going to be able to get any sort of success, so I just went for 2 cubes, which of course is the easiest. But as I went through memorization and started execution, I actually got a lot more confident in my accuracy and thought I might actually get a successful 2 out of 2. But I missed that by just a little tiny bit because I messed up the last little target and ended up with 2 twisted corners in the very end. I made my own video about that particular solve, so you can go ahead and watch that in the link in the video down in the description. Now that's pretty much it for this video. I know it was probably pretty long, but that's just because I did a lot of solves at this competition, almost 100 in fact. Anyway, that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!